Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into something absolutely massive in English football. We're talking about the dramatic transition from the absolute chaos of the financial fair play era to unprecedented statutory oversight. If you follow the Premier League, you already know the boardroom drama has literally eclipsed the on-pitch action lately. We're going to unpack exactly how the English game is fundamentally rewriting its rulebook just to survive, and honestly, the details are fascinating.
I mean, think about it. With lawyers and accountants practically deciding the fate of the 23-24 season through points deductions, you really have to ask yourself, is the beautiful game being totally overshadowed by legal battles? We just watched a season where table positions were stuck in limbo pending the churn of administrative hearings. It kind of felt like the most crucial fixtures were happening behind closed doors instead of in front of 60,000 screaming fans, didn't it?
So, here's what we're covering today. 1. The PSR Chaos era. 2. Enter the Independent Regulator. 3. The new licensing regime. 4. Protecting fans and heritage. 5. Enforcement through fines and bans. And 6. The future of football.
Section 1. The PSR Chaos era. When football met accounting trickery.
Okay, let's start with the root of the problem, the old Profit and Sustainability Rules, or PSR. These rules were supposed to stop clubs from just recklessly spending their way to the top, but man, they inadvertently incentivized some truly bizarre financial gymnastics. Just look at the sheer scale of the chaos here. We're talking massive, multi-million-pound breaches that resulted in actual sporting penalties, threatening relegation. Take Everton's first charge. They overshot their £105 million limit by £19.5 million. That originally got them a 10-point deduction, later knocked down to 6 on appeal. Then you have Nottingham Forest blowing past their £61 million limit by over £34 million, losing 4 points. And then Everton got hit again for overlapping periods. It was literal double jeopardy. The absolute lack of consistency here made fans furious. When just 1 or 2 points can mean survival or relegation, suddenly the accountants are the ones holding the keys to a club's destiny.
And this desperate quest to balance the books, it led to some frankly absurd loopholes. Clubs were essentially acting as real estate brokers. Under the old system, we saw clubs like Chelsea and Aston Villa literally selling their own hotels, and even their women's teams, to their parent companies. Why on earth would they do that? Well, because selling homegrown assets generates immediate pure profit on the accounting books. It's a magic trick that hides the massive, spread-out costs of buying expensive new players. It's a total accounting loophole that strays so far from the spirit of the sport. Which is exactly why the new associated party transaction safeguards are stepping in to mandate fair market value on these deals.
Section 2. Enter the Independent Regulator, the new sheriff in town. This self-regulatory Wild West was obviously failing, which brings us to the UK government's unprecedented solution. Established by the Football Governance Act of 2025, the Independent Football Regulator, or IFR, is the very first statutory body to oversee the top 5 divisions. That means it's backed by actual government law. They are treating football clubs like major financial institutions now, rather than just relying on gentlemen's agreements. This is huge. After the fan-led review and that whole near disaster with the European Super League, it was painfully obvious the game couldn't police itself anymore. The old days of UEFA and domestic leagues managing a dual-track model of self-regulation are over. Now a government-backed independent body is watching all 116 clubs, from the heights of the Premier League right down to the National League. Everything the IFR does is anchored to 3 core goals: protect the financial soundness of individual clubs, promote the financial resilience of the entire pyramid, and safeguard the heritage of English football. What you should really take away from this is that the IFR isn't just there to slap wrists for overspending. It's about structural health. It's about making sure your club doesn't rely entirely on the whims of a billionaire owner to survive, and ensuring the historic fabric of the game isn't just auctioned off to the highest bidder.
Section 3. The new licensing regime, the rules of the game.
So how exactly are they going to enforce this across 116 clubs? Well, they're moving from reactive punishments to proactive supervision. To legally operate, clubs now have to secure an actual IFR license by proving they meet 4 non-negotiable conditions. Number 1, financial sustainability, meaning submitting stress-tested financial models. Number 2, corporate governance, adhering to a strict new IFR code. Number 3, fan engagement, so meaningful consultation with supporters. And 4, meeting diversity, equity, and inclusion standards. Gone are the days when anyone could just buy a club and run it like a personal fiefdom. Now they have to prove they have the cash liquidity to survive economic shocks. It's wild to think about, but they are practically regulating football clubs the way they regulate major banks now. Meanwhile, the leagues themselves are throwing out that messy, backward-looking PSR system and replacing it with the real-time squad cost ratio, or SCR. This is absolutely vital. Instead of looking in the rearview mirror at 3 years of accumulated losses, clubs are going to be monitored in real time. For most clubs, their spending on player wages, transfer fees, and agent fees will be hard capped at 85% of their revenue. It's a forward-looking model. The goal is to stop the financial bleeding before a club ends up on life support.
And this transition is happening incredibly fast. The Football Governance Act passed in July 2025, and the ownership and heritage rules are already live as of May 2026. The IFR is doing a pilot phase in summer 2026, with the official window opening that November. By the 2027/28 season, mandatory licenses are required for all 116 clubs, so the grace period is effectively over. If you don't have an approved license by that 2027 kickoff, you do not play, period.
Section 4. Protecting fans and heritage, more than just a business.
Beyond just looking at balance sheets, the IFR is deploying some really unique non-financial powers that directly empower the lifeblood of the sport, the fans. For way too long, supporters have felt like passive consumers, while owners treated century-old community assets like their personal toys. Well, no more. Under these new heritage protections, owners can no longer unilaterally sell off a historic stadium or change a club's name without explicit FA approval. Want to change the club crest or the home kit colors? You actually have to prove you have majority support from the fans to do it. And maybe the biggest one, clubs are strictly prohibited from joining breakaway competitions. That is a direct legal roadblock ensuring we never, ever have a repeat of the 2021 European Super League fiasco.
To keep the bad actors out, the IFR runs these incredibly strict background checks called ODSE tests. That stands for Owners, Directors, and Senior Executives. Modeled directly on the UK's financial watchdog, the FCA, this evaluates prospective owners and execs on honesty, integrity, financial soundness, and absolute competence. This isn't just a rubber stamp anymore. Anyone trying to run a club must prove they are genuinely fit and proper. And if an existing owner suddenly goes rogue and fails these rules, the IFR has the ultimate trump card. They can issue an ownership removal order and literally force the sale of the club through appointed trustees.
Section 5. Enforcement. Fines and bans. Teeth and consequences.
Moving away from simply docking points on the pitch, the IFR is bringing corporate-level consequences straight to the boardroom. Check out this number, 10%. That is the massive maximum financial penalty the IFR can levy on a club's total annual revenue. It's a severe deterrent for billionaires who are used to just shrugging off minor fines. I mean, think about that for a second. 10% of a top Premier League club's total annual revenue. We are talking tens of millions of pounds. For a massive club, a fine could easily exceed 50 or 60 million pounds. That is a penalty that is literally impossible to ignore.
And the IFR is fiercely proactive. Just look at these enforcement powers. They can conduct dawn raids and compel documents. They share information directly with the FCA, HMRC, and the Serious Fraud Office. They can revoke operating licenses. And get this, executives can face up to 2 years in prison for criminal obstruction or falsification. Imagine a football club executive actually facing prison time because they destroyed documents or lied to the regulator. The IFR isn't sitting around waiting for a whistleblower. They can show up totally unannounced. The era of handshake agreements and hidden offshore accounts dictating English football is officially over.
Section 6. The Future of Football, a Sustainable Pyramid.
As we wrap up this explainer, we have to look at how this impacts the whole ecosystem of the English game. It's not just about keeping the massive clubs in line, it's about making sure the wealth generated at the top actually trickles down to the grassroots. The IFR holds a crucial backstop power for revenue distribution. If the incredibly rich Premier League and the EFL cannot agree on sharing broadcast revenues, either side can apply to the IFR to mediate. And if that fails, the IFR simply steps in and issues a legally binding distribution order. For years, the top flight and the lower leagues have been locked in this bitter stalemate over TV money. Now, the regulator can literally force a binding financial settlement, and both sides just have to live with it. It's a total game changer for negotiating power.
We are entering a brand new era where football clubs are treated exactly like financial institutions. So I'll leave you with this question. Will the IFR save the beautiful game or drown it in red tape? Look, there is absolutely no denying we need to stop clubs from spending themselves into oblivion. But the sheer volume of compliance, stress tests, and bureaucratic hurdles is completely alien to the sport.
Is the focus going to shift away from building the best team on the pitch to building the best legal and compliance team in the boardroom? That is the massive question English football has to answer as it steps into this bold new reality. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep your eye on the boardroom just as closely as the pitch,